Hi guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to read Joshua 4-8, Proverbs 22, and Psalm 55. Let's get started. Early one morning, Joshua and all the Israelites started out from C.Jun. They went down to the Jordan River. They camped there before they went across it. After 3 days, the officers went all through the camp. They gave orders to the people. They said, "Watch for the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God. The priests who are Levites will be carrying it. When you see it, you must move out from where you are and follow it. Then you will never know which way to go. You've never gone this way before. But don't go near the ark. Stay about 1,000 yards away from it." Joshua said to the people, "Set yourselves apart to the Lord. Tomorrow he will do amazing things among you." Joshua said to the priests, "Go and get the ark of the covenant. Walk on ahead of the people." So they went and got it. Then they walked on ahead of them. The Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to honor you in the eyes of all the Israelites. Then they will know that I am with you, just as I was with Moses. Speak to the priests who carried the ark of the covenant. Tell them, when you reach the edge of the Jordan River, go into the water and stand there." Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here, listen to what the Lord your God is saying. You will soon know that the living God is among you. He will certainly drive out the people now living in the land. He'll do it to make room for you. He'll drive out the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. The ark will go into the Jordan River ahead of you. It's the ark of the covenant of the Lord of the whole earth. Choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel. Choose one from each tribe. The priest will carry the ark of the Lord. He is the Lord of the whole earth. As soon as the priest step into the Jordan, it will stop flowing. The water that's coming down the river will pile up in one place. That's how you will know that the living God is among you." So the people took their tents down. They prepared to go across the Jordan River. The priest carrying the ark of the Lord of the covenant went ahead of them. The water of the Jordan was going over its banks. It always does that at the time the crops are being gathered. The priest came to the river. Their feet touched the water's edge. Right away, the water coming down the river stopped flowing. It piled up far away at a town called Adam near Zarethon. The water flowing down to the Dead Sea was completely cut off. So the people went across the Jordan River outside Jericho. The priest carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord. They stood in the middle. They stopped in the middle of the room and stood on dry ground. They stayed there until the whole nation of Israel had gone across on dry ground. After the whole nation had gone across the Jordan River, the Lord spoke to Joshua. He said, "Choose 12 men from each among the people. Choose one from each tribe. Tell them to get 12 stones from the middle of the river. They must pick them up from right where the priest stood. They must carry the stones over with all of you, and they must put them down at the place where you will stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed among the Israelites. There was one man from each tribe. He said to them, "Go back to the middle of the Jordan River. Go back to where the ark of the Lord is. Each one of you must pick up a stone. You must carry it on your shoulder. There will be as many stones as there are tribes in Israel. The stones will serve as a reminder to you. In days to come, your children will ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' Tell them that the Lord cut off the flow of water in the Jordan River. Tell them its water stopped flowing when the ark of the covenant of the Lord went across. The stones will always remind the Israelites of what happened there." So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River. There was one stone for each of the tribes of Israel. It was just as the Lord had told Joshua. The people carried the stones with them to the camp. There they put them down. Joshua also piled up 12 stones in the middle of the river. He piled them up right where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood, and they are still there to this day. The priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan River. They stayed there until the people had done everything the Lord had commanded Joshua. It was just as the Lord had directed Joshua. All the people went across quickly. As soon as they did, the ark of the Lord said, and the priests also went across to the other side. The people were watching them. Among the people who went across the river were men from the tribes of Reuben and Gad and half of the tribe of Manasseh. The men were ready for battle. They went across ahead of the rest of the Israelites. It was just as Moses had directed. There were about 40,000 of them. All of them were ready for battle. They went across in front of the ark of the Lord. They marched through the plains around Jericho. There they were prepared to go to war. That day the Lord honored Joshua in the eyes of all the Israelites. They had respect for Joshua as long as he lived. They respected him just as much as they had respected Moses. When the Lord respected Joshua, he said, "Command the priests to come up out of the Jordan River. They are carrying the ark of the tablets of the covenant law I kept." So Joshua gave a command to the priests. He said, "Come up out of the Jordan River." And the priests came up out of the river. They were carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. As soon as they stepped out on dry ground, the water of the Jordan began to flow again. It went over its banks, just as it had done before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up out of the Jordan River. They came to Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. Joshua set up the 12 stones at Gilgal. They were the ones the people had taken out of the Jordan. Then he spoke to the Israelites. He said, "In days to come, your children after you will ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' Their parents must tell them, 'Israel went to cross the Jordan River on dry ground. The Lord your God dried up the Jordan for you until you had gone across it. He did to the Jordan River the same thing he had done to the Red Sea. He dried up the Red Sea ahead of us until we had gone across it. He did this so that all the nations on earth would know that he is powerful. He did it so that you would always have respect for the Lord your God." All the Amorite and Canaanite kings heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan. They heard how he had dried it up for the Israelites until they had gone across. The Amorite kings lived west of the Jordan. The kings of Canaan lived above the Mediterranean Sea. And all those kings heard of what the Lord had done, they were terrified. They weren't brave enough to face the Israelites anymore. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, "Make knives out of flint. Use them to circumcise the men of Israel." So Joshua made knives out of flint. Then he used them to circumcise the men of Israel, Gibeath Haaraloth. Here's why Joshua circumcised them. All the men who came out of Egypt had died. They died while they were wandering through the Sinai desert. They were the men old enough to serve in the army. All the men who came out had been circumcised, but all the men born in the desert during the journey from Egypt hadn't been circumcised. The Israelites had moved around in the desert for 40 years. But at the end of that time, all the men old enough to serve in the army when they left Egypt had died. That's because they hadn't obeyed the law. He had made a promise to them. He had told them they wouldn't see the land. It's the land he had promised to their people to give us. It's a land that has plenty of milk and honey. Because they hadn't obeyed him, he raised up their sons to take their place. They were the ones Joshua circumcised. They hadn't been circumcised yet. That's because no one had circumcised them during the journey. So Joshua circumcised all those men. The whole nation remained in the camp until the men were healed. Then the Lord spake to Joshua. He said, "Today I have taken from you the shame of being slaves in Egypt." That's why the place where the men were circumcised is being called Gilgal to this very day. The Israelites celebrated the Passover feast. They observed it on the evening of the 14th day of the month. They did it while they were camped at Gilgal on the plains around Jericho. The day after the Passover, they ate some of the food grown in the land. On that same day, they ate grain that had been cooked. They also ate bread made without yeast. The manna stopped coming down the day after they ate the food grown in the land. The Israelites didn't have manna anymore. Instead, they ate food grown in Canaan. When Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him. The man was holding a sword. He was ready for battle. Joshua went up to him. He asked, "Are you on our side, or are you on the side of our enemies?" "I am not on either side," he replied. "I have come as the commander of the Lord's army." Then Joshua fell with his face to the ground. He asked the man, "What message does my Lord have for me?" "The commander of the Lord's army," he replied. "Take off your sandals. The place you are standing on is holy ground." So Joshua took them off. The gates of Jericho were shut tight and guarded closely because of the Israelites. No one went out, no one came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "I have handed Jericho over to you. I have also handed over to you its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all your fighting men. In fact, do it for 6 days. Have 7 priests get trumpets made out of ram's horns. They must carry them in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times. Tell your priests to blow the trumpets as you march. You'll hear them blow a loud blast on the trumpets. When you do, blow a long blast on the trumpet. When you do, tell the whole army to give a loud shout. The wall of the city will fall down. Then the whole army will march up to the city. Everyone will go straight in. So Joshua the son of Nun called for the priest. He said to them, "Go and get the ark of the covenant of the Lord. I want 7 of you to carry trumpets in front of it." He gave an order to the army. He said, "Move out, march around the city. Some of the fighting men must march in front of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoken to the men, the 7 priests went forward. They were carrying the 7 trumpets. They marched in front of the ark of the Lord. They were blowing the trumpets. The ark of the Lord's covenant was carried behind the priests. Some of the fighting men marched ahead of the priests who were blowing the trumpets. The others followed behind the ark and guarded all the priests. The whole time the priests were blowing the trumpets. But Joshua had given an order to the army. He had said, "Don't give a war cry, and don't raise your voice. Don't say a word until I tell you to shout. Then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city once. Then the army returned to camp. They spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning. The priests went and got the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets started out. They marched in front of the ark of the Lord. They blew the trumpets. Some of the fighting men followed ahead of them. The others followed behind the ark and guarded all of them. The priests kept blowing the trumpets. On the second day, they marched around the city once. Then the army returned to camp. They did all those things for 6 days. On the 7th day, they got up at sunrise. They marched around the city, just as they had done before. On that day, they went around it 7 times. On the 7th time around, the priest blew a long blast on the trumpets. Then Joshua gave a command to the army. He said, "Shout, the Lord has given you the city. The city and everything in it must be set apart to the Lord to be destroyed. But the prostitute Rahab and all those with her in her house must be spared. That's because she hid the spies, should be said. But keep away from the things that have been set apart to the Lord. If you take any of them, you will be destroyed, and you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. You will cause it to be destroyed. All the silver and gold is holy. It is set apart to the Lord. So are all the things made out of bronze and iron. All those things must be added to the treasures kept in the Lord's house." The priest blew the trumpets, and as soon as the army heard the sound, they gave a loud shout, and the wall fell down. Everyone charged straight in, so they took the city. They set it apart to the Lord to be destroyed. They destroyed every living thing in it with their swords. They killed men and women. They wiped out young people and old people. They destroyed cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Then Joshua spoke to the 2 men who had gone in to check out the land. He said, Go into the prostitute's house. Bring her out. Also bring out everyone with her. That's what you promised her you would do." So the young men who had checked out the land went into the Rahab's house. They brought her out along with her parents and brothers and sisters. They brought out everyone else there with her. They put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it. But they added the silver and gold to the treasures kept in the Lord's house. They also put there the things made out of bronze and iron. But Joshua spared the prostitute Rahab. He spared her family. He also spared everyone else in the house with her. He did it because he hid the spies he had sent to Jericho. And Rahab lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua made a promise and called down a curse. He said, "May the person who tries to rebuild the city of Jericho be under the Lord's curse. If that person lays his foundations, it will cost the life of his older son. If he sets up the gates, it will cost the life of his youngest son." So the Lord was with Joshua, and Joshua became famous everywhere in the land. But the Israelites were unfaithful to the Lord. They didn't destroy what they had been set apart to, so they did not do what they had been told to do. Achan had taken some of those things. So the Lord became very angry with Israel. Achan was the son of Carmi. Carmi was the son of Zimri, and Zimri was the son of Zerah. Achan and all his relatives were from the tribe of Judah. Then Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai. Ai is near Beth Aven, east of Bethel. Joshua told the men, "Go up and check out the area around Ai." So the men went up and checked it out. Then they returned to Joshua. They said, "The whole army doesn't have to go up and attack Ai. Send only 2,000 or 3,000 men. They can take the city. Don't make the whole army go up there. Only a few people live in Ai, so only about 3,000 troops went up. But the men of Ai drove them away. They chased the Israelites from the city gate all the way to Shebarim. They killed about 36 of them on the way down. And so the Israelites were terrified. Joshua and the elders of Israel became sad. Joshua tore his clothes. He fell in front of the ark of the Lord with his face to the ground. He remained there until evening. The elders did the same thing. They also sprinkled dust on their heads. Joshua said, Lord and King, why did you ever bring these people across the Jordan River? Did you want to hand us over to the Amorites? Did you want them to destroy us? I wish we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Lord, our enemies have driven us away. What can I say? The Canaanites will hear about it. So will everyone else in the country. They will surround us. They will erase any mention of our name from the face of the earth. Then what will you do when people don't honor your great name anymore? The Lord said to Joshua, Get up. What are you doing down there on your face? It's our sin. I made a covenant with them. I commanded them to keep it, but they have broken it. They have taken some of the things that had been set apart to me in a special way to be destroyed. They have stolen. They have lied. They have taken the things they stole and have put them with their own things. That is why the Israelites can't stand up against their enemies. They turn their backs on us. That's because I have decided to let them be destroyed. You must destroy the things you took that have been set apart to me. If you do not, I will not be with you anymore. Go and set yourselves and set the people apart. Tell them, make yourselves pure. Get ready for tomorrow. Here's what the Lord, the God of Israel, wants you to do. He says, People of Israel, you have kept some of the things that had been set apart to be me to be destroyed. You can't stand up against your enemies until you get rid of those things. In the morning, come forward, tribe by tribe. The tribe the Lord chooses will come forward group by group. The group the Lord chooses will come forward family by family. And the men of the family the Lord chooses will come forward one by one. Whoever is caught with the things that have been set apart to the Lord will be destroyed by fire. Everything that belongs to that person will also be destroyed. He has broken the Lord's covenant. He has done a very terrible thing in Israel. Early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes. The tribe of Judah was chosen. The groups of Judah came forward. The group of Zerah was chosen. Joshua had the group of Zerah come forward by families. The family of Zimri was chosen. He had the men come forward one by one. Achan was chosen. Achan was the son of Carmi. Carmi was the son of Zimri. And Zimri was the son of Zerah. Zerah was from the tribe of Judah. Joshua said to Achan, My son, the Lord is the God of Israel. So give him glory and honor by telling the truth. Tell me what you have done. Don't hide it from me. Achan replied, It's true. I've sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. Here's what I've done. I saw a beautiful robe from Babylonia among the things we had taken. I saw 5 pounds of silver, and I saw a gold bar that weighed 20 ounces. I wanted them, so I took them. I hid them in the ground inside my tent. The silver is on the bottom. So Joshua sent some messengers. They ran to Achan's tent, and there was everything hidden in his tent. The silver was on the bottom. They brought the things out of the tent. They took them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and they spread them out in the sight of the Lord. Then Joshua and all the people grabbed Achan, the son of Zerah. They took the silver, the robe, and the gold bar. They took Achan's sons and daughters. They took his cattle, donkeys, and sheep. They also took his tent and everything he had. They carried all of it out to the valley of Achor. Joshua said to Achan, Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all the people killed Achan by throwing stones at him. They also killed the rest of his family with stones. They burned all of them up. They placed a large pile of rocks on top of Achan's body. The pile has been called the Valley of Achor ever since. That pile is still there to this day. After the people killed Achan, the Lord was no longer angry with them. Then the Lord said to Joshua, Do not be afraid. Do not lose hope. Go up and attack Ai. Take the whole army with you. I have handed the king of Ai over to you. I have given you his people, his city, and his land. Remember what you did to Jericho and its king. You will do the same thing to Ai and its king. But this time you can keep for yourselves the livestock and everything else you take from them. Have some of your fighting men hide behind the city and take them by surprise. So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. He chose 30,000 of his best fighting men. He sent them out at night. He gave them orders. He said, Listen carefully to what I'm saying. You must hide behind the city. Don't go very far away from it. All of you must be ready to attack it. I and those men, all those with me, will march up to the city. The men of Ai will come out to fight against us, just as they did before. Then we will run away from them. They'll chase until we've drawn them from the city. They'll say, they are running away from us, just as they did before. When we run away from them, come out of your hiding place. Capture the city. The Lord your God will hand it over to you. When you have taken it, set it on fire. Do what the Lord has commanded. Make sure you obey my orders." Then Joshua sent them away. They went to the place where they had planned to hide. They hid in a place west of Ai. It was between Bethel and Ai, where Joshua spent that night with his troops. Early the next morning, Joshua brought together his army. He and the leaders of Israel marched in front of them to Ai. The whole army that was with him marched up to the city. They stopped in front of it. They set up camp north of Ai. There was a valley between them and the city. Joshua had chosen about 5,000 soldiers. He had ordered them to hide in a place west of Ai. It was between Bethel and Ai. The men took up their battle positions. All the men in the camp north of the city took up their positions. So did those who were supposed to hide west of the city. That night Joshua went into the valley. The king of Ai saw what the troops with Joshua were doing. So the king and all his men hurried out of the city early in the morning. They marched out to meet Israel in battle. They went to a place that looked out over the Araba Valley. The king didn't know that some of Israel's fighting men were hiding behind the city. Joshua and all his men let the men of Ai drive them back. The Israelites ran away toward the desert. All the men of Ai were called out to chase them. They chased Joshua, so they were drawn away from the city. Not even one man remained in the Ai or Bethel. All of them went out to chase Israel. When they did, they left the city wide open. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Hold out toward Ai the javelin that is in your hand. I'll give you the city too." So Joshua held out toward the city the javelin in his hand. As soon as he did, the men hiding behind the city got up quickly. They came out of their hiding places and rushed forward. They entered the city and captured it. They quickly set it on fire. The men of Ai looked back. They saw smoke rising up from the city into the sky, that they couldn't escape in any direction. The Israelites had been running away toward the desert, and now they turned around to face those who were chasing them. Joshua and all his men saw that the men who had been hiding behind the city had captured it. They also saw that smoke was going up from it. So they turned around and attacked the men of Ai. The men who had set Ai on fire came out of the city. They also fought against the men of Ai. So the men of Ai were caught in the middle. The army of Israel was on both sides of them. Israel struck them down. They didn't let anyone remain alive or get away, but they captured the king of Ai alive. They brought him to Joshua. Israel finished killing all the men of Ai. They destroyed them in the fields and in the desert where they had chased them. They struck down every one of them with their swords. And all the Israelites returned to Ai, and they killed those who were left in it. The total number of men and women they killed that day was 12,000. The Israelites put to death all the people of Ai. Joshua continued to hold out his javelin toward Ai. He didn't lower his hand until he and his men had totally destroyed everyone who lived there. This time Israel kept for themselves the livestock and everything else they had taken from the city. The Lord had directed Joshua to let them do it. So Joshua burned down Ai. He tore it down so it could never be built again. It had been deserted to this very day. Joshua killed the king of Ai. He stuck a pole through the body, and he set it out where people could see it. He left it there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered his men to remove the body from the pole. He told them to throw the body down at the entrance to the city gate. Then they put a large pile of rocks over the body. That pile is still there to this day. Joshua built an altar to honor the Lord, the God of Israel. He built it on Mount Ebal. Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites to do that. Joshua built the altar according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses. Joshua built the altar out of stones that iron tools had never touched. Then the people offered on the altar burnt offerings to the Lord. They also sacrificed friendship offerings on it. And Joshua copied the law of Moses on stones. He did it while all the Israelites were watching. They were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. All the Israelites, including outsiders and citizens, were there. Israelites' elders, officials, and judges were also there. All of them faced the priests, who were Levites. They were carrying the ark. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim. The other half stood in front of Mount Ebal. Moses, the servant of the Lord, had earlier told them to do it. Moses told them to do it when he had given directions to bless the Israelites. Then Joshua read all the words of the law out loud. He read the blessings and the curses. He read them just as they are written in the book of the law. Joshua read every word Moses had commanded. He read them to the whole community of Israel. That included the women and children. It also included the outsiders living among them. Proverbs 22. You should want a good name more than you want great riches. To be highly respected is better than having silver or gold. The Lord made rich people and poor people. That's what they have in common. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place. The child people keep going and suffer for it. Being humble comes from having respect for the Lord. This will bring you wealth and honor in life. Thorns and traps line the paths of evil people. Let those who value their lives stay far away from them. Start children off on the right path, and even when they are old, they will not turn away from it. Rich people rule over those who are poor. Borrowers are slaves to lenders. Anyone who plants evil gathers a harvest of trouble. Their power to treat others badly will be destroyed. Those who give freely will be blessed. That's because they share their food with those who are poor. Borrowers are If you drive away those who make fun of others, fighting as it goes away. Arguing and unkind words will stop. A person who is a pure and loving heart and speaks kindly will be a friend of the king. The eyes of the Lord keep watch over knowledge, but he does away with the words of those who aren't faithful. People who don't want to work say, "There's a lion outside," or they say, "I'll be killed if I go out into the streets." The mouth of a woman who commits adultery is like a deep pit. Any man the Lord is angry with falls into it. Children are going to do foolishness, but correcting them will drive that foolishness far away. You might treat poor people badly or give gifts to rich people. Trying to get rich in these ways will instead make you poor. Pay attention and listen to the sayings of wise people. Apply your heart to the sayings I teach. It is pleasing when you keep them in your heart. Have all of them ready on your lips. You are the one I am teaching today, because I want you to trust in the Lord. I have written 30 sayings for you. They will give you knowledge and good advice. I am teaching you to be honest and to speak the truth. Then you can give honest rewards to those who serve. Don't take advantage of poor people just because they are poor. Shouldn't treat badly those who are in need by taking them to court. The Lord will stand up for them in court. He will require the lives of people who have taken the lives of those in need. Don't be a friend of a person who is a bad temper. Don't go around with a person who gets angry easily. You might learn their habits, and then you will be trapped by them. Don't agree to pay for what someone else does, and don't agree to pay their bills for them. If you don't have the money to pay, your bed will be taken right out from under you. Don't move old boundary stones. Don't sit up by your people longer. Do you see a person who does good work? That person will serve kings. That person won't serve officials of low rank. Psalm 55. God, listen to my prayer. Pay attention to my cry for help. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts upset me. I'm very troubled. I'm troubled by what my enemies say about me. I'm upset because they say they will harm me. They cause me all kinds of suffering. When they are angry, they attack me with their words. I feel great pain deep down inside me. The terrors of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling have taken hold of me. Panic has overpowered me. I said, I wish I had wings like a dove. Then I would fly away and be at rest. I would escape to a place far away. I would stay out in the desert. I would hurry to my place of safety. It would be far away from the winds and storms I'm facing. Lord, confuse the sinners and keep them from understanding one another. I see people destroying things and fighting in the sea. Day and night they prowl around on top of its walls. The sea is full of crime and trouble. Forces that destroy are at work. Forces that destroy are at work inside. The streets are full of people who cheat others and take advantage of them. If an enemy were making fun of me, I could stand. If you were getting ready to oppose me, I could hide. But it's you, someone like myself. It's my companion, my close friend. We used to enjoy good friendship at the house of God. We used to walk together among those who came to worship. Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them be buried alive, because their hearts and homes are full of evil. When I call out to God, and the Lord saves me, evening, morning, and noon I grind and cry, and He hears my voice. Even though my enemies are fighting against me, He brings me safely back from the battle. God has been on His throne since the ancient times and does not change. He will hear my enemies and make them humble. That's because they have no respect for God. My companion attacks His friends. He breaks His promise. His talk is as smooth as butter, but He is worn in His heart. His words flow like olive oil, but they are like swords ready for battle. Turn your worries over to the Lord. He will keep you going. He will never let God of you be shaken. God, you will bring sinners down to the grave. Murderers and liars won't live out even half of their lives, but I trust in you. Now that's done, I shall now do the Lord's Prayer. Please bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.